You know her, you love her. She is the most informative person on Epstein that I've ever met in my life. And I consider myself very knowledgeable on this subject. Whitney Webb.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How you
Nice to
been?
see you. I had a baby.
What?
Lots of things have happened. Yeah, he's almost, well, I guess a little over 7 months old now. I wrote a book. I wrote 2 books about Epstein.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been a crazy year. Even though you may not, even though you may not have seen or heard much from me, I've been doing a lot of work and had a lot going on. So anyway, I'll be back with more stuff and books that are long, that are a lot to chew on for people interested in this subject. And I'll have a lot of articles about other stuff too coming out the next couple months. So I'm back. Woo.
Wow. One book is a lot. I've written one. I
Yeah.
wrote one book and it was a lot. You did 2? That's amazing, Whitney.
Well, it was supposed to be 1, right? So it's the Epstein book I've been working on since 2020. One Nation Under Blackmail is the title, and it ended up because of logistics and supply chain stuff in the extreme length. It ended up being it's volumes 1 and volume 2. So it got split into 2 books. Volume 1 is about 500 pages. Yeah, so it's detailed. I think my work is kind of known for that, though, like being really source heavy and being really detailed. And so basically what I'm doing is I'm fleshing out the Epstein network. So the whole what's volume 2 now, the whole second part of the book, which is chapters 11 to 21. Both volumes are like roughly the same size. That's all about Epstein and Wexner and the Maxwells, basically. And so I'm basically explaining in volume 1 the Epstein network and tracing it back to its origins, which is really like more or less the beginning of the 40s, the 1940s, and showing you all the illegal shit they did, including sex blackmail and sex trafficking of minors for blackmail purposes of the US government and all this stuff. Because it's really important for people to realize that Epstein was not an anomaly. I mean, I know you've been frustrated too by the mainstream media narrative that, oh, Jeffrey Epstein, the only bad billionaire, he's gone now, so all is fine. And you have to basically show that well, I felt it was important to show he's not an anomaly at all. In fact, in the world he was operating in, I mean, his behavior in terms of sex trafficking, very common. Very common. The type of sex trafficking that Epstein, what we know about that operation and the size of it was going on that same scale by people that ran the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, or BCCI, which was basically co-founded by the CIA and Pakistani intelligence, used for money laundering and all sorts of other illegal activities, financing of covert operations for several intelligence agencies and stuff. It collapsed in 1991 in a spectacular explosion. William Barr covered that up when he was Attorney General the first time, among other things. But basically, the head of that bank and a woman that basically is like the Pakistani Ghislaine Maxwell were taking minors to like shopping, teaching them how to behave to please elderly men, and they were being pimped out, some pre-puberty, to members of the United Arab Emirates royal family as far back as the 70s, going on for an extensive amount of time. And it's very likely through that Epstein in his earlier career, after he left Bear Stearns in the 80s, was directly working with this bank during that period of time.
What's the name of the bank again?
BCCI, or Bank of Credit and Commerce International. So, and that's just one example. Adnan Khashoggi himself, who's like a well-known guy that was an Epstein client linked to intelligence, arms dealer, Iran-Contra figure, many things. He was also known to have basically what it was referred to as a harem of women who were used to compromise people in government and or the private sector that he wanted something from, including most often for business deals, to butter them up. Right. And the more you look at this network, the more people like this that there are. So I felt like it was really important to make it clear to people just how Epstein is not an anomaly, and also how many scandals in American history have a major undertone of sex blackmail to them. The McCarthy witch hunt, the Red Scare, There's sex blackmail there. Watergate, sex blackmail there. And there's other
Watergate.
scandal. Yeah, totally.
Where in
And
Watergate? How was it Watergate?
well, it's basically all chapter 5 of my book is about sort of the undercurrent of Watergate, because there was all this weird stuff about the break-ins, right? There was a lot of incompetence, and there's a lot of unanswered questions about motives and conflicting reasons for the break-in, even from the people that committed the crime themselves. And it turns out one of the oddest pieces of evidence is this key that one of the plumbers that broke into Watergate had in his possession, Eugenio Martinez. And he tried to swallow it, actually, to like hide it from police when they got caught. And it turned out to be a key to a safe of some secretary in the place in that particular area. And it turned out that she was involved in a call girl ring, and they were basically doing phone sex to senators and congressmen. And across the street in an apartment complex, they were like recording those calls for blackmail. And if you look into that call ring, I think the chief White House counsel, I think that was his name, if I'm not mistaken, was basically getting married. It was engaged to, I think at the time, if not already married, to one of the key people sort of involved in the call ring. And they were going to be exposed because the guy that was running it was already in legal trouble when Watergate happened. And it had a lot of CIA and organized crime link connections. So basically, it's possible that one of the motivating factors for that sort of being found out is related to some sort of sexual blackmail operation that was ongoing at the time. But there's a lot of other stuff with, Watergate's a really complex thing. I wasn't expecting it to be that complex when I started writing it. And this is how the book gets really long, because you're like, oh, and then holy shit, there's sex blackmail here too, So it's a very common theme in American politics. It's really stunning. So anyway, that's how volume 1 ended up being really long. But I think it's really important because we need to understand just how long our government's been compromised in this way and by whom, which I think is also really, a key part of the equation.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I can't wait to get copies of these. How do I get copies of these books?
Okay, so the best way to get it if you live in the US is through the publisher directly, because boo, Jeff Bezos, but also other reasons. And the publisher is Trine Day, TRINE Day. And there you can also, if you want both volumes, you can buy like for a bundle price that's significantly cheaper than buying them both separately. Though volumes 1 and 2 will be available as one ebook, right, in one audiobook. So, if you don't want to pay for the 2 physical copies, or that's out of your price range, I would recommend going with that. Because I'm not really in this to be like, yes, I need all the royalty. No, it's not like that at all. I only get like 30% of the proceeds anyway. It's basically, I just wanted this information to be out there, and I wanted to have a conversation about who Jeffrey Epstein really was, who Ghislaine Maxwell really was, what they were really doing, and the implications of that for the government, and how also the government is incapable of investigating itself.
Oh, absolutely.
About this stuff. And what that means, right?
It supports several things. It supports like the interview you did a couple of years ago with Maria Farmer, where she said Epstein was middle management, and
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's middle management, and this has been happening for a long time. And yes. This is, and how like Les Wexner was called the head of the North American snake.
Well, that was her name for it. But yeah, obviously Wexner is like a big fish. Yeah. In a way that Epstein is not.
He's bigger than Epstein. And it's a reason why, and because he's got so much more power, you see why he's almost never mentioned in any of this. But yeah, totally. I wanted to bring you on specifically, and thank you for telling us all this stuff about how your book goes into detail. And I would encourage everybody who watches my show. I have an Epstein playlist. I would encourage you to read these books. I'm going to read these books because it'll
blow your mind now.
It'll blow your mind. Well, it also supports what Stanley Kubrick said. He goes, the world is run by pedophiles. He said that. And that's when he made the movie Eyes Wide Shut. That's basically what Eyes Wide Shut is him saying, this is what's really happening. These powerful people are horrific creeps. and
Yeah.
it's all for money and power and creepy sex and whatever the hell else.